Hello everyone and welcome back to the DMside. It's so great to be back here on the camera speaking to you and giving you an update and progress on how the story is going in Dragonheist. Now, we did have 2 weeks off and I'm really sorry about that. We had Father's Day, so obviously got to take some time for the dads, and then we had a player who wasn't available, so we put it off for a week. I really like to make sure that all my players are actually at the table before we progress the story. I don't really like the idea of someone having to come in and try and catch up with what their character's been doing, or having their character not be there for some random reason and explaining them away. Now, some DMs do it and that's totally fine. Personally, I just really like to have my players at the table all the time. So we'll always take those weeks off where not everyone can be there. If you'd like to keep up to date with the schedule of videos, head over to the @DMside641 Instagram, because that is where I will post whenever we are taking a week off. I also put stories up for tips and little stories about monsters and other things that you could probably throw into your games, as well as putting up some pictures of the setup, the nights that we play, and just pictures from the books and things like that that I'm kind of thinking of maybe throwing into the game. But you are here to hear about how the story is going, and we have definitely progressed a little bit. So let's get straight into that recap and talk about what's happened. All right, so let's do a recap. So first of all, the gang decided they were going to go find Maxine the talking horse. Previously, I had told them that Maxine was known for trusting children because she sees them as more innocent and pure-hearted. So they dressed up the two halflings as kids, Jaggerjack and Hootie, and basically pushed them in front of horses until one of them showed signs of caring and worrying about their safety, which with enough insight checks, they did manage to do. Plus, it was really funny and a lot of fun interaction of everyone else being the dads of these two kids who just keep running around in front of horses. So they spoke to Maxine, they found out the information of the Zentarum who had come in, and they moved on their way after getting paid for that. Then they went to the docks to do some investigating, and I did not expect that. I thought, well, the docks is more of a nighttime thing, they're just going to stake it out. No, they decided to go and actually do some investigating, which was amazing. And also difficult because I had to improv about all of it. So I actually thought they were just going to go and stake out for the night and eventually see someone stalking some elves. But no, they decided to go and ask around the civilians about who was there, what they heard, check out the crime scene, go to a few bars. And so it was just all improv for at least an hour and a half. So it's not D&D without at least 50% of improv, am I right? 50%, let's be clear. The other 50 is prep and luck mixed in. It's a mess. It's a mess of fun. That's the point. It's a mess of fun. But they managed to get some really solid information, a bit of a build on the person. They heard a loud bang, and then they found in the one of the crime scenes a small ball bearing, which after going and seeing Watcher's creator, which was a really fun interaction as well, found out that that ball bearing is actually a smoke grenade, mostly used by pirates and made in the city of Luskan, the city of sails, which is obviously laying the breadcrumbs for their later enemy. So they decided, all right, now's the time to stake it out. We're going to stake out and go and check out these boats, see if maybe we can get some information. As they went along, they realized that this was not just one single ship for a few people. This was the 3 seafair maiden ships. All 3 of them, the carnival set up, they look really fun, amazing, a lot of noise. A few carnies out on the docks were like practicing, and then they saw that the carnies were actually going to be performing at Raynar Neverember's house because it's his turn, or he's decided to host the party for the High Harvest festival for the season. And so they went, okay, first of all, there's at least 20 people on there to man the ship, plus the carnies on top. We don't know what they're capable of. And then we don't even know who we're looking for. And there's 3 of those boats, 2 in the actual port and 1 that's sitting out off of the docks. So we can't just decide to go and investigate and sneak on. It's probably not the best idea. Let's go to this party because there's a good chance that perhaps Raynar Neverember is in trouble. So we'll go see him, see if he can give us an invitation, because he did say that he could get us meetings with some high-profile people, which they decided to do after staking out for the night. We did a roll, and I decided that the rolls will get easier each night they stay, and eventually something will happen, the next murder of an elf, because it happens every 3 or 4 nights, I think the book recommends. So unfortunately there was no murder that night. Then they went off the next morning to see Raynar Neverember. While seeing Raynar Neverember, they basically were told, you can't just come to this party. This is like the big party of the season, but I am afraid that I might actually be targeted because of what's happened, and everyone's talking about my escape, and they're talking about you. So it makes perfect sense for me to hire you as bodyguards. I was going to suggest that to them, but they came up with that offer themselves, which made me even more happier. And I went, yep, you're hired. And they were going to get paid 500 gold pieces to keep him safe for the night. So that's going to go towards getting this money for the Troll Skull Manor and getting this whole chapter 2 finished over the next 3 to 4 sessions. But it was really great. After that, they decided it's time to go and see these scarecrows on the outside of the wall. And this was by far one of my favorite things, because in the book, it's just one scarecrow and you kind of just have to go and take it out. And the scarecrows are really tricky because it's meant to be for level 2, they're already level 3. And the scarecrows take half damage, so I get it. For level 2 characters, it's probably pretty difficult. But for my players, who are definitely seasoned players and they're level 3, I decided it's not something that I want to do. It's too easy and boring. I'm going to change it. I'm going to make it a lot harder. So first of all, there were 4 scarecrows. And second of all, there was a hag. And there's a coven of hags, but they didn't run into it. So there's this whole backstory that I just decided to make up because this is the fun of D&D. I decided there were 4 scarecrows who were actually being created by the hag who lives further out into the field area, and she's actually using the scarecrows to distract the farmers so that way her offspring, because I did a little bit of reading on hags and I found out that if hags steal human children, I think they eat them and then rebirth them as hags, but they come back out as kids until their 13th birthday. So there was a little girl there. It was her 13th birthday that day, and so the scarecrows were there to basically cover her escape because she was worried that if the little girl was to start transforming, the parents would just essentially kill her. So when the group showed up, they heard about the farmers being like, "Oh, we're used to stuff like this, but the scarecrows just keep coming back. We've scared them off and they keep coming back. You know, we've had manticores, we've had bandits, the little girl was stolen as a baby and then she wound up back in a cot." And that really tipped them off and they really wanted to investigate her. But at the time, she was just a regular girl. Anyway, they decided to split the party. Yes, the best idea, splitting the party. And they left Watch on his own at the farm. And now I explained to them that the last scarecrow they saw, because they did see some in the fields on their way to the farm, was an hour away. Well, they decided they were going to go and check it out anyway, and Watch decided he was going to stay. So off they went. And this is my favorite part. Scarecrows are really creepy. After running Strahd, I just love this very horror feel. And so the way I explained it was, Watch is just scanning, looking around as everyone's going about their business on the farm. There's just the dad, the farmhand, and then there's the 2 kids. And everyone else is off in the city delivering food and crops. And so Watch is scanning, he's looking out onto the fields. As he scans back, there he sees a scarecrow. And everyone just absolutely freaks out. And they go, "How far away are we?" And I go, "You're an hour away." And they're like, "An hour?" I'm like, "I said it so many times. You all decided it was a good idea." And then Watch is like, "Oh, does anyone else notice?" I was like, no, you're watching. They don't really see it. He's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Oh, I look over and just make sure that everyone else is okay." I was like, "Great, yeah." You look over to the farmer and he's there doing his thing. You look back and now there's 2 scarecrows. Oh, and then you look around and now there's 3. And then he decides, I'm not going to stop looking. And all of a sudden he realized, as a Warforged, he doesn't blink. So he's just in there watching. And eventually, it was really great. Every 10 minutes or so, because I wanted to give the party a chance to get back. Because by this point, they're bolting back. They're sprinting. They're rolling checks to see if they're exhausted from it. And I was just like, I really don't want this to be just the scarecrows to murder this character, because they were a bit silly and just decided to split the party. So I was like, every 10 minutes, the scarecrows just bolt and scuttle forward and run. And then they stop about 100 feet. And then he gets out his little Eldritch Blast, and they're basically testing to see the range on this thing. And they're like, wasn't there a 4th one? And eventually the 4th one is coming around the side of the barn. And then all of a sudden, Watch just goes nuts. And I didn't realize he had a flamethrower, which is amazing. He was the best character to leave behind, because all of a sudden he's doing double damage, because they're not immune to it. They're, They're vulnerable to it. While everyone else is dashing back in. Eventually they get back in, and the farm is like on fire because he's just lighting everything up. The kids have run off to their safe house, because whenever there's a problem, they have a safe house that they run off to. The group managed to defeat the scarecrows, which was absolutely amazing, a lot of fun. As a DM, I chose not to use their fear. They have like a nightmarish fear look to scare off characters. And that's my own personal choice. As a DM, you don't have to use every monster's abilities against your players. Look at their level. Decide what they can and can't do. Decide what the monsters are going to do. Decide how smart they are. And yeah, so it was really fun, super creepy, and the players really loved it. After that, they were like, we need to go and see the kids, make sure they're safe. And then they ran off, and that was the perfect moment for the hag to get away. And so they went into the safe house, and there was the little boy murdered, dead on the ground, and the little girl nowhere in sight. They rolled some checks, nothing high enough, unfortunately, and the hag got away and went to go and see her mother. Now, the plan, the whole long story for this is, if they were able to follow her, they would follow her and they would fight the hag. The little girl would be a lot weaker. I would have made her like half health of the hag and less spell slots, because that would be quite a tricky battle anyway. But now that they haven't been able to find her, the real story that's actually going on is there's a night hag in the city, and that's her territory. This green hag outside of the city wants that territory, and so she's put this 13-year plan in to build a coven to go in and take the city from the night hag. So this is the first child of 2. The other child, in a few months, come winter, will change into a hag and the coven will be complete. And that's when the players may have to deal with that. Who knows? So I really like that they had an option to stop this early, and now I get to play with this at higher levels later on because covens are really strong. So I'm planning on going probably past the level 5, level 4 the book, just because I think there's so much to work with in Waterdeep. But that is pretty much the recap. They went home a little bit upset that they had won. They saved the farm, even though they burned half of it down. But they didn't save the girl. So let's talk about next week. All right, so next week, in the session that we are about to have, the party is going to a party. So they're getting all dressed up. They're going to be wearing their leathers under some nice clothes. They're going to be personal guards for Raynar Neverember. Now, who's going to be at this party? The Castellantas will be there because they're a little bit nosy, and so they want to know, oh, what's going on? Why were you taken? We heard about it. It must have been terrifying. What was the reason? What did they want? Because the Castellantas are trying to figure out where this stone is. Now, Jalaxel Bainray is definitely going to be there. He's going to be disguised, and he is going to be one of the big protagonists of the session. This is where they get to meet him essentially and get an idea as to who he is, and he's going to be presenting himself as Zardos Zord, the captain of the Fair Maiden. Is it the Fair Maidens? The Sea Fair Maidens. And so his performers will perform, and he's mainly there because he's trying to get in with Raynar Neverember. He's actually not trying to steal him or kidnap him. He's trying to also figure out this information. On top of that, Xanathar has sent in a mage. Now, the whole point here is that he's actually completely orchestrated the wait staff, and there is a concoction, a potion that has actually been put into the punch, and the punch is actually not poisoned, but basically there is a liquid in there which acts as a sleep spell. So I'll be rolling and seeing every time that people drink, there'll be a roll basically to see how much health is deducted, to see if they go and fall asleep. Basically, everyone's going to fall asleep, Raynar's going to fall asleep, and then the mage is going to come in and try and kidnap him with 2 thugs. In that process, we're going to have either the Castellantas. I can't decide if they're going to actually be there or if they're going to leave early. So it looks like they were the ones who orchestrated it. And I also can't decide how far Jaxel Bainray's performers will go to stop Xanathar's guild from kidnapping Raynar. Depends on how the players are going. I want the players to really save him essentially, but I'll have the performers jump in and also help just in case. And that'll be a really good way to see the power of these performers and how strong they really are, so for future battles. But the big deal is that Jaxel Bainray is not going to fall unconscious because he's going to have so much health. And so they're going to see that, and the smarter characters will actually take note of that and figure out that, hang on, he's definitely a bigger player than we've realized. Being the captain, he's obviously quite strong. So we're going to really play around with that. And also, Watch finally gets to have his initiation into the Order of the Gauntlet. So he's been waiting he has been waiting a 10-day for it, whereas the player has been waiting over a month for this now. And so he's going to finally get his own mission, And it's just a really big character turn. It's a turning point for his character. He was once this rust bucket of the city, and nobody really knew what he was going to do, and he didn't know what he was going to do, but he knew he wanted to protect Waterdeep, and now he's been offered this great opportunity. So we're going to do a big show. It's going to be really great, and the party's going to be a big night. And I don't really know what else is going to go from there. Basically, that's what I've planned. I've planned for this huge party. After, I imagine they'll probably go and investigate the docks, in which case they will see the murderer, and then we will have that unravel. And finally, the players will get to see a gun in action. We've had guns before in the past, but this is a story where you actually can have guns properly and actually use them. Whether you have proficiency or not is a different story. But that is the plan for this week. Comment down below if you got to the end of this video. Comment down below what you would do in this situation and how you would spice the party up just a bit more, because obviously I've got like a very small idea. And also like the video if you like it, subscribe if you would like to subscribe. I'm going to leave you with one little extra bit. Just know there is more coming throughout the next few weeks. Whenever we don't run sessions, I will be releasing videos that are just general DM tips, general ideas for hooks for stories, and maybe even some history videos on Waterdeep itself. So I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I'll see you for our recap next week. See you later.